A little bit of bass. Take me higher. Today I'm going to be producing a track in the style of Deadmau5 and Kaskade, aka Kx5. We go into everything building this up from complete scratch, including choosing the samples, how to get that old school vibe, all of the sound design from scratch in the synths, mixing, arrangement and everything else. Huge shout out to my Accelerator students who are getting supported by some of the world's biggest DJs each and every week. You can check out some of their music below, and you can also download this project file completely free, all the samples and presets as well. Okay, without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, so I'm suitably caffeinated, I've got my magic list, so let's get straight to it. First thing I'm going to do is set the tempo, which will be 128, and we want to capture that old school kind of 90s feel. So rather than start on the kick today, I'm going to start with the bass, and I'm going to use Serum. This is what we use in the Accelerator to teach sound design. I know lots of you guys and girls have got it, so that's fantastic. So we're going to call this acid bass, and we want to create that really gnarly acid bass sound that's so popular in the Kx5 sound. So we're going to go and choose basic, let's choose BS2 acid, because we're making an acid synth, right? Now let's choose a normal saw wave. And then we need to start getting the shape in. So if it's a nice acid hit like a TB303, we need it to be a short plucky sound. So no sustain, bit of decay. And now I want to create a second envelope that is very similar in shape, but I'm just going to tweak it slightly to be a bit more constant, like so. And this is going to give us the meow kind of effect. Right, so now we need to choose a filter. I'm going to choose a bandpass filter. We're going to have to make sure both oscillators are routed there. And then we're going to assign this envelope, our second envelope, to that filter. And just make it a bit. And that's going to give us our bow sound. And now we need to add that distortion, because all good acid has distortion. So let's get a distortion unit on there. And depending on which algorithm you choose is going to make a huge difference. So I want something quite hardcore. So I'm going to choose diode and make it sound really quite distorted. So we're really close. We're pretty much there already. You can hear? So next thing I'm going to do is just tweak this a little bit, add a little bit of chorus to soften it down a bit. Give it some more width, which sounds quite cool. And then a little bit of compression just to tighten it up a bit. And then I think I will add an EQ and just take out the low end. Because we don't want it fighting with our real bass line, which we're going to be creating soon. And let's give it a little bit of a boost as well, I think. Just to give it a bit more gnarliness. Okay, on to the next thing. We are going to look for the vocal next. Again, I'm not doing everything in order, but I want to capture that old school feel. So you can search for vocals online, old school vocals. You can go on YouTube. I'm going to use the exact same vocal they use from the track. And that is actually from the track Take Me Up. And that is by Sound Source. So let's just have a listen to that and see if we recognize it. Take me up, take me up. Cool. So that's not ideal. We just want... You gotta take me up now. Take me up. That's the bit I want. So let's go there and just copy, or rather cut out just that bit. Take me up. Getting those vibes already, man. Getting those old school 90s vibes. Taking me back, taking me back. Now, I don't think this actually has the Take Me Higher bit, which is annoying, but at least we got the Take Me Up. So that will do. Let's colour that purple. Colour of vocals, because of the colour of the internal of the throat, actually. So now we've got our vocal hook and we've got our acid sound. So lovely. Next thing we've got on our list is the kick. We had a nice punchy Deadmau5 kick. Deadmau5 and Kaskade both use great kicks, but I've got my favourites here. It's really good to have a favourites folder for your samples, guys, because it will just help you produce so much quicker and you don't want to be losing flow. So I've got some gnarly kicks that I've developed over the years. That's nice and clean. Let's use that one. And then we just program it. Boom, boom, boom. Want you in my room on every beat, because this is house, baby. And that's how we do. Cool. Here we go. Right, so let's automatically, I just want to get that acid line in, okay? So let's just program it in. I think the actual track is in C, so let's do it in C as well. Probably there. I don't know if this is the same pattern, but we're going to do this anyway. So that's sounding really basic. So we need to name this in an appropriate fashion, and that's going to make it all sound better. So Kx5, what are we going to call this? We're going to call this WD40. Work out why if you like. Now we need to get a sidechain compressor on there to get it bouncing. And I'm going to show you something really cool with the auxiliary channels in a second as well. So let's get the compressor on there. I'm going to open this up. I'm just going to call it SC Comp, Sidechain Compressor. Going to hit the sidechain button and take the audio input from my SC channel. Now all this is a little short sharp tick that we use to trigger the sidechain compressor. It sounds like this. Just a little 808 rim shot. And the reason we use that instead of the kick is because look how much shorter it is. So all of the control over the length of that bounce is going to come from the compression release control. And we want to do that because it just gives us more control. Or you could use something like Kickstart or Shaper Box or LFO Tool. But I'm going to set the sidechain channel to be sends only, which means we'll never actually hear it. And then we can just minimize it. And it's just going to be used for this purpose. So we can see if we bring this down, that tick, and I think I'm going to put an extra one at the end. Let's make those shorter so it's a bit punchier. And then at the end we get the extra bit. Cool. Now let's feed some of this acid bass out into an auxiliary channel. So you can create that just by going up here and pressing create, insert, return track, and then we're going to put a decay on there, a Hall reverb, sorry, with a fairly long decay, I think. We'll experiment on the length, but let's try 4.5 seconds. 100% wet, so we don't double up the dry signal. The utility to boost it, and then we've got a Hall reverb so we can actually shape the EQ of the reverb and treat it separately from the dry signal. So now let's feed some of this acid bass line there. Whoops, I'm playing with the wrong one, aren't I? I think I've fed it to the wrong channel. Yeah, okay, let's try this again. Taxi. That's better. So that's sounding a little bit weird at the moment, but as soon as we copy another sidechain compressor over that Hall reverb, it's going to start bouncing, and that's going to really give us that Deadmau5 feel. But I want this to be a bit gnarlier, so I'm going to take this and let's get some bassier frequencies. I think that's better. That's better. Okay, magic list, what do you say to me? Magic list, how can this possibly be? The next thing we're going to do is add an FM bass, and this is just going to bounce in between the normal bass. We'll get to the normal bass in a second, but let's just add actually no, we'll do the normal bass first because it makes sense, because it's like a fundamental underlying part of the track. So let's just put the normal bass in there, and I am going to, let's just color them, keep it nice and organized. I'm just going to stick to Serum today actually, because if you don't use Ableton or you don't have the suite version, which means that you won't have a wavetable, let's just keep things all in one synth and keep it simple. So first thing I'm going to do is program in the riff, which is going to be on the 16ths, and this is just going to be to roll things along. And this will be similar to if you are producing melodic techno as well, a similar kind of rhythm, just using these 16th intervals. Cool, so let's just copy and paste that. It sounds bad at the moment, but we're going to shape this sound. And most sounds, I find, usually are based on saw waves because they've got the most harmonics in them. So let's just get this shape correct. Again, make it a bit plucky, I think. Make it mono because it's a bass and we don't want the bass notes kind of rolling into each other. And now let's make this sound actually good because it's horrible at the moment. Well, it's not horrible, but we want a bit more interest and add some more harmonics. So I'll turn on the second oscillator. Let's add a filter as well. And we'll assign that same filter to a low pass, the same envelope, sorry. And this is going to make it a bit pluckier, which kind of sounds cool. Now I want to add more character to it. So I'm going to go and choose this scream. Scream. And we're already hearing these interesting harmonics being added to it. Okay, cool. So let's add a little bit of stereo width to this sound. Well, we'll add some distortion first. And Deadmau5 and, well, the Kx5 project, their use of distortion and shaping pretty basic sounds into something special is really where the magic lies. So I'm not going to be able to get something that sounds, you know, as good. It would take me a long time to do that, but I want to give you some examples of just how to add character to sounds. That's quite cool. Maybe a bit harsh, a bit too much like the acid. And now let's add a second oscillator and just kind of find a wave that we like the sound of. It's all a bit high, so let's put it down an octave. Just going to select all, Command and A on the MIDI notes, hold Shift and press down. Okay, that's sounding a bit more like a bass line. So let's duplicate that and put it on our sub bass line, which we want to keep nice and clean. So we've got optimum control over our sub bass level. So if this is a bit complex for you at the moment, don't worry, I'm trying to work quickly and get it sounding as good as possible, as quickly as possible. But if you do want to learn everything there is about music production, not everything there is, but everything you need to know to get a professional sound quickly, then check out the accelerator below. So what I'm doing is I'm rolling off everything under about 120 Hertz. And that's because we want our sub bass to occupy that frequency spectrum. So what I will do is I'm just going to copy and paste this same serum. So it's got the same shape. So the length of all the notes are the same. And I've copied the EQ as well, but I'm going to turn off the high pass filter and instead switch it out for a low pass at the same, roughly the same place, maybe 120. So this is going to be our sub bass. But I'm going to change the sound to a nice sine wave and just tighten it up a bit. So let's turn this one off. Hear how much punchier that sounds using a sine wave? That is heavy blood. Now when we mix these two together, in fact, let's add a little bit of stereo width to this bass first. I'm going to do that by adding another auxiliary channel, reverb bass. I'm just going to make it nice and short, about half a second long maybe, and then take out the low end of that, and let's feed some of that into our main bass. It's just going to add a little bit more character to it. Hear the difference? This is off. And that's on. So it's kind of like a little room reverb. Okay, so now I'm going to add the sub bass. We've done that. I'm going to add the FM bass. And then we're going to group all those basses together and sidechain compress them all in one go. Giddly, giddly, go. So hopefully you're going to be learning some new stuff today. I really hope so. So we'll get a classic FM house bass. Again, with the Kx5 sound, we're looking for a lot of nostalgic dance sounds. But rather than create this from scratch, I'm just going to pick one I made. Here's one I made earlier. So let's get an FM bass, FM house bass. And this is a frequency modulation bass. And the magic here is taking oscillator B and frequency modulating oscillator A with an envelope. And that gives us that nice kind of pipey sound. So let's just figure out a nice place to put that. So we don't want it playing at the same time as the main bass, so it's going to be dancing in between it, like this. That's very important to note. See how this lands compared to this bass and the acid as well. So it's all dancing around each other. Okay, so it sounds sick. Fact. That really is just fact. But what happens now is if we put them all together into a bass group, then we are going to apply this same sidechain compression. We can copy it from what we prepared earlier and then just paste it on the bass, and that's going to allow this to bounce. So this is the bass without this sidechain compressor activated, and then I'm going to turn it on and just listen to the difference that allows the kick to pop through. And let's have a sip of coffee in the meantime, shall we? We shan't. No, we shall. So you can hear how it's bouncing now. Let's get this acid up in this bitch. Okay, so that's sounding pretty cool now. I'm not sure if this sounds exactly right. That's just a little squelchiness. I won't spend too long on this because we've got other stuff to do in this lesson. Maybe a tiny bit of chorus, again, just to add some more width. And that's what you've got the ability to do that if you take out the low end. You can add this stereo width without worrying about it messing up your sub bass. Sweet, so magic list, what is next for me? Now we're going to go onto the drums. So we're going to use a combination of like separate drums programmed in and loops as well, because the loops can add a little bit of extra character. So let's first get a standard 909 open hat. Again, this is using classic sounds to get that old school feel. So first let's program those hi-hats in between every kick, like so. It's a bit loud actually, isn't it? It is rather, yes, well. Rein it in, son. Okay, let's turn it down. Now you'll hear those are very long. They're kind of bleeding over each other. And we really want them to be completely stopped by this point. At the moment, they're going all the way to the next hat. So what we're going to do is turn off the release. And I might turn off the sustain actually and just shape the length with the decay. So this is with a really short decay. Let's just make it a bit long. That sounds pretty cool. Let's look at the EQ. Take out any low frequencies we don't need. And then use a low shelf just to make it sound a bit more natural. And then a little bit of a boost for some brightness. That's a banger, mate. I mean, I didn't write it. I'm kind of copying it, so I can't take credit, but I am pleased with how it's sounding, I have to say. Okay. Well, we can actually make our own tune once we've got this sound palette anyway. So actually, we can make it into our own thing. Okay, let's add some shuffle. So this is just going to be on the 16th, and this is a really important thing to add for most house music, really. If we just vary the velocity slightly, and I'm holding Command using Mac OS to do this, and then you can drag up and down, and that's going to allow us to just have a slightly different volume for each one, which is going to make it sound more pleasing to the human ear, because we like variation. We don't like things to be too robotic. So now I'm just going to copy and paste that. But we want to add more movement to that. So once again, I'm going to grab the old trusty sidechain compressor, aka SC Comp, and then I'm going to put it just after that closed hat. So let's have a listen to that on its own and hear what it's doing. So this is the closed hat without the sidechain compression. And this is when we add it. Again, just adding more movement to the whole thing. I'm going to add one more hat, I think. I'm just going to layer up one more hat into that mix. Yeah, just a standard 909 hat will do, 909 closed hat. Let's just put that to just really beef up this open hat a bit. So just layering it up with the open hat. And let's see what it sounds like before and after. So it's very subtle, these slight changes, but you know, that's indicative of Deadmau5 and Kaskade. They're both phenomenal producers that use a lot of nuance and careful layering, and that's really what you've got to do if you want to achieve a similarly quality sound. So next thing I'm going to do is add a shuffle, and this is where we are layering up different sounds to add depth to our track. Now, we don't want everything fighting, so this really is just going to be working on the 16ths as well. Let's use Splice for this. If you want to help support the channel, you can get Splice below this with my affiliate link, or just Google it if you don't want to do that. Loop Cloud's another great source as well. I've put a link to that below as well. I like both of them. So now we've got the shaker loop. Like really simple stuff. And we're just going to add the sidechain bounce to that. Oh, I've got so much good stuff to show you still. We've got to do the epic chords and everything. Oh my goodness. Stick around, stick around. Okay, so now we've got the bouncing shuffle. So let's just, let's add some stereo width to this. So what I'm going to do is add some erosion, which is going to add some more harmonics, kind of like saturation. I'm going to use an EQ to take out the frequencies I don't want. I don't really want many of these frequencies. And now I'm going to use this great free tool called the Ozone Imager 2. You can get it from Isotope. And let's just see what happens when we add stereo wise and stereo width. So it's really pushing things out. Okay, our volume's going up a little bit there. So what I'll do is I'll just take the volume down here quickly. So we don't want red on any of these meters really. It's still a tiny bit loud. Let's just take the gain down here. Okay, so now let's mix it in. Not even sure if it's needed, to be honest. Oh yeah, it makes a big difference. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to add one more shuffle. And again, that's just to add some slightly lower frequencies. Ah, Till West, same man. Such a tune. So what you can do if you're using loops like this is you don't need to use the whole loop. If there's just a few frequencies you like, you can just use those bits. So we can hear here, hear here, hear here. We can hear we've got the open hats and the snares. Oh, that's a bit loud, isn't it? But we're already going to have our own snares, so we're going to get rid of this. And we don't need open hats because we've already got that. So you can get away with just using, you know, very few parts of it. That's a hat there. We don't need that. Where are the hats? So don't need the snare, don't need the hat, don't need the hat. And we don't really need it hitting where the kick's hitting. So let's use this bit instead. So now it's just dancing in between our kick. So we don't need one there. Our open hat, we don't need one there. And our clap, we don't need one there. So we really are using a very little amount of this. And on its own, it's going to sound rubbish. Like transforming on if you were mixing, crabbing. So, but now, listen to the extra frequencies we can add to our drum loop. So I'm just going to loop this bit without anything else and listen carefully to what happens. So now it's just adding a whole other layer of interest and just making it sound way better. Now I am going to take out some of the frequencies. We don't really want those bongos because they're going to fight with the bass. This one's a bit loud, I think, because it's got quite a loud shaker I can hear on the right channel. So let's just bring that down manually. Okay, so all together. And this is off. Rubbish. Amazing. Okay, so let's just copy and paste that. And then we've done our drums. So now we can get on to the really interesting stuff, like working out the chords and the stabs. We've got the acid so far. Brilliant stuff. And we've got the vocals, of course, as well. Actually, let's just whack that on there. Towards the end. Take me up. Yes, take me higher. And we'll add some reverb to the some delay. We want, oh, we're going to have to pitch this up. It's not quite in key. That's the ticket. That's the very ticket. Come on. So we'll just have it at the end. Come on. So this is all we use at the moment for this bit. For our kind of groove section. Like so. And then we can add a little bit of delay, which we will do on the auxiliary channel. So I'll create a separate auxiliary channel for this. Let's call it Vox Reverb. No, sorry, Vox Delay. Again, as it's associated with the throat, we want a throaty color. So again, I'm going for a purple. I'm assuming that's the inside color of a throat. No doctor's actually confirmed this. If you are a doctor, please confirm or deny my suspicions. It's a hunch, but you know, I trust my gut on these things. So I'm going to put 100% wet. I'm going to choose notes rather than dotted. And this is just basically the delay steps. So choosing the right steps for the length of each delayed signal. And you'll hear what I mean in a second. So let's just play it. So I think that's too fast. So I'm going to make these a quarter note each. So that's better for me. So now if we were to loop this, just this section, you've now kind of got this effect as you move in, which is cool. Okay, we're running into some issues with clipping here. So what I will do is I will take everything down a bit, just to make sure we don't have issues on the master channel. That's sounding better already. Nice. Okay, let's get on to these epic chords. And first we need like that 90s hold that sucker down type pluck. And thankfully, Deadmau5 makes very nice plucks, as does Kaskade actually. So let's call this Pluck. Pluck me up, buttercup. Yes, those are words and I am saying them and I can't unsay them. So first I'm going to get the plucky shape. And again, we've already touched upon this. We need to have something that has a short decay. That gives us that plucky sound. There we go. I'm going to have a celebratory sip of coffee. Do let me know if you're enjoying this so far, guys. Let me know in the comments. Give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother. If we're feeling holy, let's do it. So I'm going to get, how shall I do this? We need to have a low pass filter pluck because that's going to give us this plucky sound. So we need that at some point. But I want to do these lads credit. I want to make this a bit more nuanced than your average. So I'm going to go and choose that scream again, like so. I'm only going to allow a little bit of this to kind of come through. But it's just shaping it and coloring it slightly. So let's add some unison. And then I'm going to add a second oscillator now. And I'm not going to feed this through to this scream. I want this to be unfettered, if you will, by the scream. I'm going to detune it quite a lot. And that's, you can hear already, it's giving us this epic Ferry Corsten, late 90s. wasps in a jam jar type epicness. So let's... Yes, brah! That's already boss. Right, let's get a noise on there. I'm just going to add a noise oscillator, and that is going to add some extra sizzle up there. Again, we'll assign that envelope to it. And now listen to this noise. Can you hear that? This is off. I could just jam this all day actually, but I mustn't. I simply mustn't. I have too much respect for your time and sanity. So let's go to the effects and beef this bad boy up. Well, we've already discussed we need to have some filter on there. So let's put our low pass filter on there. I'm going to assign the same envelope, and that's going to allow us to make this into a pluck. I'm going to hold Option, Shift, and hit this, and it's going to make it unidirectional. So we can start down here like this, and then open it up. Add some drive. Maybe a tiny bit of compression. And now I want to make this sound really nice. Now we could do the effect on the auxiliary channels, but I'm going to do it all within Serum, just so you can see what's going on. So let's add a little bit of chorus, I think, at the top. A little bit like that. We want the compressor after the filter because the filter is going to be adding some peaks at certain points. We can see this is now activating more at that point. So it just evens out the sound a little bit. And now we want to add some delay. Let's add some delay. And we will put this after the compressor and everything. Like the order in which you layer effects makes such a big difference. And now we just want this bouncing around. Not so much, maybe ping pong. Yes, yes, son. And now let's get some reverb on there. Now, actually, I will do the reverb separately because I think it's really important to get a lot of control over it when you are doing the mix. So what I'm going to do is assign this little chap here, this macro, to the filter control like this. And all that's going to allow me to do is just control that filter from there instead of there. But you could assign multiple things to this macro if you wanted. So something that we could do is we could add more chorus when it's low down. And then we can assign that macro to it, drag it down so it's negative, which means as we push this up, it's going to get less chorus, which will allow the epicness to shine through. So there's less chorus playing at that point than there is at that point. Okay, cool. Let's use we'll need our own reverb for this. Otherwise, because we've already shaped this to work with the acid line. So, whoops, just created the wrong kind of channel there. So let's call this Pluck Reverb. And we're going to color this the color of synths, the natural color of synths, but the faded out natural color of synths, like a sickly synth. And now we are going to put a big fat reverb on there. Put a donk on it. And now we can feed some of that reverb in, or rather some of our pluck into that reverb. Auxiliary A. Yes. And now when we open it up using that macro, well, in fact, what we're going to do is press this button here, press configure, and then hit macro. And that's going to allow us to control it from within Ableton, nice and simply. Let's just call that low pass filter, so we know what it is. And then we can program the notes in and then start automating this and arranging it. And let's just do exactly that. So we're going to save this and then program in this Pluck. Pluck. And then we're going to get onto the Reese bass, which is going to sound amazing in the break. So hang around for that. So first let's program in the root note. Again on those 16ths. Like so. Let's split it over a couple of octaves. So if the main chord is a C minor, because we're writing in C minor, we can go scale, C minor, press this scale button, and now we just need to skip a note each time, and that's going to give us our main triads. And if this is a bit confusing, again, we go through all of this in the accelerator, everything you need to know about music theory as well. So we've got our chord. But we want to split that over a couple of octaves because this is a bit vanilla at the moment, and we want that really epic sound. So we've just split that chord over 3 different octaves, basically. Maybe we'll just use that same note instead, actually, which is... No, we'll do this. So let's play it. I'm going to start doing the arrangement as well, actually. It's a bit like Faithless, isn't it? I'm sure that was intentional. I don't know if this is exactly the right notes and the right timing, but it roughly is. Oh, let's get some hall reverb up in this place. Right, we're going to automate the shit out of this. So what we're going to do is choose, we're just going to right click on this that we set up earlier, show automation in new lane. And this is where shit's going to get epic, right here. Let's have a listen to that. Yes. Yes. Yes, I accept. I accept. Okay, I want this to go up beforehand. Right, now when we add the Reese bass below this, it's going to sound insane because my favorite kind of like motifs kind of play the same thing melodically, and then when the bass notes changes, it just melts my heart. I mean, that's what I love about Pryda's music as well. And it's what I've always loved about dance music, really. These little repeating motifs, and then they sound cool, but when you bring in the context of the bass, oh boy, oh sweet baby Ray, all of the above, it just epics everything up. So what we're going to do, again, use Serum, because I want you to be able to download all of these presets and just use them. So let's do that. So this is at first we're programming the notes. And again, we've got C minor selected, easy peasy pudding and pie. So we're going to start with the root note. So that's going to be the first note, leading into the bass actually. So we can play that. And we're just going to fade that in with a volume. Like, people forget the simple things, okay? Sometimes a volume fade is all you need. But let's get the sound right first, because that's just a basic saw wave. So for a Reese bass, we want to add some unison, and that's going to give us the movement in the low end that we need. Then we're going to put a filter on that, and then you got yourself a Reese bass. And it doesn't really matter so much that there's phase cancellation. And you can see there's phase cancellation because And that's basically when the low waves are cancelling each other out in the stereo field. And you can see that there is because, well, if we switch to mono, you can hear the energy going up and down, and you can see it right here. You know, that would be an issue if this was the main drop of the track. That would be a big issue. But because it's the break, it's okay. We can have a little bit more of these dynamics. That's the natural sign for dynamics. So let's just... Yes. So what we're going to do is put a utility on there. And there's something I need to tell you. Please don't ever automate the channel faders, because if you need to then change the volume later on, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot, because you'll need to change all of the automation nodes. So if you're doing a volume automation, just do it on a utility like this. Right. Oh, I got a treat for you now. So let's get this second bass line in. We'll just draw another track. So this is at full volume now, and we're going to go up to this note, which is the A flat. In a different key, it would be called G sharp. It's the same note, but this is going to give us that moment that I was talking about, when the bass changes but the motif sounds the same. And then we're going to go to the F. And you can see I'm just using this scale function. If you turn it off, it gets a bit more complicated. If you've selected the right scale, it makes it easy. Now, these are the exact notes from the track, but this is a progression that I love to use anyway because of how epic it sounds. Oh, we need to make it twice as long though. You know, if you're going to do something epic, do it properly epic. This may be twice as long as it needs to be. So that is the feelsy bit. So let's now actually just make this sound really fat, this bass line. We'll add another oscillator. And then we'll add a little bit of an envelope. So we'll have to create a second envelope because we want this sustained hits straight away. But the second envelope, we're going to just add a little bit of attack and a little bit of decay, and that's going to open up this filter just a little bit, like a little brassy sound. Did you hear just the merest hint? Whoa. And now I want to add some legato, and this is where it gets really kind of epic, because it's going to sweep between the notes. You can hear it sweep now. Ho 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 ho. Okay, so let's get some arrangement here now. We're almost done, almost done. I've shown you a lot of pretty advanced stuff today, so I hope you've been enjoying it. I've got one last thing to add. One last thing. The extra tension. I'm going to add a string. Just, again, a classic 90s house move. You know, quite a lot of coming up with new, interesting stuff is just repurpose it, reimagining and repurposing what has gone before. You'd be amazed at how many of your favorite hit tunes are actually just heavily influenced or just repurposing tunes from 10 or 20 years before them. You know, when you start going down that rabbit hole, it's really interesting. So I'm going to go to a user pack here. I'm going to go orchestral strings. this is just from Ableton, this pack. So we're just going to have a normal string. Just going to hit one note, a C. We'll hit a nice high C. So let's just pop that in there. I don't know why I'm using this crazy green. It's like Ghostbusters and I love it. So really high up, that's all we need. Okay, let's make it that long. So we've got a chance to re-trigger it if needs be. And now strings. And now we just want to take out, you know, everything we don't need. This is a really subtle effect. That will do nicely. So now let's check out the strings over this. It's just adding that extra tension. So now we're getting a vibe. But we need that take me higher. Quieter Pluck. Tone down that reverb. Dun 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 dun. I think that's it. Yes. I'm going to tweak this because I think the timing's off. And now let's just repeat that, like so. Whew. Okay. We want this bass to be lower. It's 1 octave too high, I think. Let's do it. Here we go. Here's our epic break. And now listen to when that bass comes up. Yeah. Take me higher. Don't take me up. Oh, that's a tune. I'm going to have to I think I have to wrap this up because, no. Let's get that arrangement done. I said I would. I want to do a bit more with this vocal and that's going to help with the arrangement. So what I'm going to do is just work out what's going to happen after the drop. You know, I could use the reference track, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of ad lib. So we've got the epicness. So how are we going to... So we could do this. We'll have this. And what we're going to do is just automate the feedback on the auxiliary channel, and we're going to keep this bad boy rolling. And this is going to be our build up. Whoops. We don't want to go past 100, maybe just past 100. And let's take off the high pass filter. No, we don't want it getting louder, so we'll add some reverb. Okay, and we're also going to add that sidechain bounce to that delay as well. So let's just pop that on. I've only got a few minutes, then I have to get ready to go. So this is really quick. We want to we want to keep that vibe of the plucks going on as well. So to do that, all right, calm down, love. To do that, what I'm going to do is add a synth snare, I'm going to call it. And I don't know why I'm doing this, but that's what I'm doing. I'm going to really quickly just steal this rhythm. Because I like that dun 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 rhythm. I've never shown this before on this channel, so let's just do it quickly. There's nothing like a deadline to make you work faster. That's what my old mining boss used to say back in the day when I worked down the mines. Let's get an operator on there and then take it down. Oh, that sounds amazing. Well done. All right, let's choose a white noise. We'll take out the low frequency. So this is going to be our snare, believe it or not. We are just going to go and tweak the shape of it. So sustain down. So the decay is now what we're going to be tweaking, like so. So this is in effect going to be our snare. And we'll add some reverb on there to kind of wash it out and some delay. I really am just going quickly now. So we're going to have it run to 26. So let's start from 0, and then we're going to open up the feedback as well as we go. And let's take out the low frequencies. We need more feedback, we need more dry wet. So this just becomes like a washed out mess. Yes! That's what we're gonna do. Last thing we need to do is get that sidechain compressor bouncing that as well. We'll turn on those vocals again. Let's get this cooking. I've got to go. This is the end. This is the end, my friend. Let's listen to it though. And this build up, see how it sounds, right? Don't forget, if you want to jump on one-on-one calls with me, if you want to join in the group sessions twice a week, have any questions like this answered, check out my accelerator program. We've helped our students get signed some of the world's biggest labels, and I can help you too. Oh, come on, CPU. Take me high. Don't take me. I'm just repeating the vocals for fun now. Right. I'm singing. Dun 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 dun. A little bit of bass. Dun 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 dun. Take me high. Oh, you come on. Clap. That's it. That's it. Woo. I really hope you enjoyed that, guys and girls. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you did, and if there's any particular track you want me to break apart in the future. I'm going to have to compare this to the original track because I don't know if it's actually how close it is, because I'm just doing this with fresh ears. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time. Until then, cheers and happy producing.